Welcome. My name is Maslina binti Mahdi, student in Master of Early Childhood Education. Today I will be presenting a concept paper with the topic of study of association between parental knowledge, attitudes and practices and children's school readiness. So this is to fulfill the requirement of my course of HMEC 5433 academic writing. So I'll start with the content of my presentation, which includes the introduction, literature review, problem statement, research objectives, general research objectives, specific research objectives, research questions, hypotheses, and I conclude my presentation. So child outcomes are interconnected within and across diverse domains of development. So what does it mean by school readiness? I'll start with the definitions of school readiness. So school readiness means that the child has reached a certain level of emotional, developmental, and cognitive development and skills that are needed for effective learning, functioning, and working successfully in school. So in this study, children's school readiness will be assessed in the following domains. Mainly physical health and safety, emotional and behavioral competence, social competence, and cognitive competence. For the purpose of this study, I would like to define the knowledge, attitudes, and practices definitions. Knowledge refers to facts, information, and skills gained through experience or education and understanding of issue or phenomenon, whereas attitudes refers to viewpoints, perspectives, reactions, or settled ways of thinking about aspects of parenting or child development. It may be related to cultural beliefs founded in common experience. Practices refers to parenting behaviors or approaches to child rearing that can shape how a child develops. So, generally speaking, knowledge relates to cognition, attitudes relate to motivation, and practice relates to ways of engaging of behavior. So parenting knowledge, attitudes, and practices are shaped not only by each other, but also by a number of factors, including children's characteristics, for example, gender and temperament, parents' own experience, for example, those from their own childhood experience and circumstances, expectations learned from others, and also cultural system. So I'll start the literature review with parenting knowledge. Knowledge of child development. To optimize children's development, parents need a basic understanding of infant and child development milestones and norms and the types of parenting practice that promote children's achievement of these milestones. So some studies have found a direct association between parental knowledge and child outcomes, including reduced behavioral challenges and improvements on measures of cognitive and motor performance. Knowledge of parenting practices, specific knowledge about health and safety, including knowledge about how to access healthcare, protect children from physical harm, and promote good hygiene and nutrition is a key parenting competencies. So keeping children physically healthy is the key factor in ensuring children ready for school. Less research attention has been paid to the effects of parenting attitudes on parents' interactions with young children or on parenting practices. So parents' attitudes toward parenting are a product actually of their knowledge of parenting and the values and goals for expectation they have for their children's development, which in turn are informed by cultural, social, and societal images, as well as parents' experiences and their overall values and goals. So parenting practices to promote physical health and safety. Parents influence the health and safety of their children in many ways. So evidence on range of practices in which parents engage to ensure the health and safety of their children can be observed. For example, through breastfeeding practices, nutrition and physical activity, preconception and prenatal care, and injury prevention. Parenting practices, which practices to promote emotional and behavioral competence and social competence. So parents contribute to children's emerging social competence by teaching them skills such as self-control, cooperation, and taking the perspectives of others that prepare them to develop and maintain positive relationships with peers and adults. Research suggests that children who are socially competent are independent rather than suggestible, responsible rather than irresponsible, cooperative instead of resistive, purposeful rather than aimless, friendly rather than hostile, and self-control rather than impulsive. I'll move on to the literature review on the parenting practices to stimulate cognitive development. So as children's first teachers, parents play important role in their cognitive development, including their acquisition of such competencies such as language and literacy and numeracy or math skills that are related to future success in school and society. So parents that provide enriching and stimulating sets of experiences for children can help develop these skills. Parenting practices in terms of contingent responsiveness of parents. So contingent responsiveness denotes an adult's behavior that occurs immediately after and in response to a child's behavior and is related to the child's focus of attention. So emotionally responsive parenting, whereby parents respond in a timely and appropriate way to children's needs, is a major element of a healthy relationships and is correlated with positive developmental outcomes for children that include emotional security, social facility, symbolic competence, verbal ability, and intellectual achievement. So, in terms of parenting practices in organization of home environment and the importance of routines, literature review show that observational research suggests that children's development is enhanced by parents' use of predictable and orderly routine. Family routines, such as those related to feeding, sleeping, and learning, help structure children's environment and create order and stability that in turn help children develop self-regulatory skills by teaching them that events are predictable and there are rewards for waiting. So my problem segment is globally school readiness is a very important and crucial issue in early childhood education. So the characteristic of school readiness is multidimensional. School readiness is seen as a complex set of interactions between individuals and their families, school and communities. So as school readiness is a dynamic process and it started at birth through everyday supportive experiences with parents and caregivers. So therefore, there is a need to study the parental knowledge, attitude, and behavior towards child development. So my research objectives. This study aims to investigate the relationship between parental knowledge, attitude, and practices and children's school readiness. So my specific research objectives, there are 9 of them. Number 1, to investigate if there is any relationship between parent knowledge of child development on children's school readiness. Number 2, to investigate if there is any relationship between parents' knowledge of parenting practices on school readiness. Number 3, to investigate if there is any relationship between parent knowledge of supports, services, and systems on children's school readiness. Number 4, to investigate if there is any relationship between parenting attitudes and children's school readiness. Number 5, to investigate if there is any relationship between parenting practices to promote physical health and safety and children's school readiness. Number 6, to investigate if there is any relationship between parenting practices to stimulate cognitive development and children's school readiness. Number 7, to investigate if there is relationship between parenting contingent responsiveness behavior and children's school readiness. Number 8, to investigate if there is relationship between parental organization of home environment and the importance of routine and children's school readiness. Number 9, to investigate if there is relationship between parental behavioral discipline practices and children's school readiness. So, this leads to my research questions. Number 1, is there any relationship between parent knowledge of child development on children's school readiness? Number 2, is there any relationship between parent knowledge of parenting practices on children's school readiness? Number 3, is there any relationship between parent knowledge of supports, services, services and system on children's school readiness? Number 4, is there any relationship between parenting attitudes and children's school readiness? Number 5, is there any relationship between parenting practices to promote physical health and safety and children's school readiness? Number 6, is there any relationship between parenting practices to stimulate cognitive development and children's school readiness? Number 7, is there any relationship between parenting contingent responsiveness behavior and children's school readiness? Number 8, is there any relationship between parental organization of home environment and the importance of routine and children's school readiness? And number 9, is there any relationships between parental behavioral discipline practices and children's school readiness? So this leads to my null hypothesis. My null hypothesis number 1, there is no relationship between parents who have knowledge of child development and children's school readiness. Hypothesis 2, there is no relationship between parent knowledge of parenting practices and children's school readiness. Number 3, there is no relationship between parent knowledge of supports, services and systems and children's school readiness. Number 4, there is no relationship between parenting attitudes and children's school readiness. Number 5, there is no relationship between parenting practices to promote physical health and safety and children's school readiness. Number 6, there is no relationship between parenting practices to stimulate cognitive development and children's school readiness. Number 7, there is no relationship between parenting contingent responsiveness behavior and children's school readiness. Number 8, there is no relationship between parental organization of home environment and the importance of routine and children's school readiness. Number 9, there is no relationship between parental behavioral discipline practices and children's school readiness. So as a conclusion, parental knowledge, attitude and behavior of child development is positively associated with quality parent-child interactions. Several parenting practices that are associated with improvement in the 4 main domains are contingent responsiveness, routines and reduced household chaos, practices related to promoting children's health and safety, use of appropriate discipline. So studies suggested some variation in parenting knowledge, attitudes and practices among racial, ethnic, cultural and other demographic groups, but more attention is needed whether and how these differences matter for children's outcome. So let's conclude my presentation. Thank you for listening.